Yes. Doing very well, thank you. Um,
Good. I like your Spanish.
appreciate it. I'm
Yeah,
liking my Spanish these days too.
good.
I like your
How
English.
long? Well, thank you. I'm trying. How long have you spoke Spanish for?
Oh man, I I started picking up and learning it full time when I lived in Uruguay for 2 years. I was 19 years old, served a mission down there. So I then came home, uh, got married, got divorced, started picking up. I picked up a few things here and there for business purposes, just for fun, and then ended up falling in love with a lady from Mexico. Realized I didn't know Spanish. I knew Uruguay Spanish, and so I learned probably 1,000 words per day for a long time in modismos, and I went from a preacher, formal Spanish to learning how to fight and say lots of cuss words in Mexican Spanish. And so I'm half sailor, half preacher. So
Is it border Spanish or interior Spanish?
no, el oeste, the west side. Michoacan specifically. Are you familiar with Mexico?
The border.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
We have our Tex. I'm
yeah.
from Texas, so Tex-Mex is that's a whole different ball game. Got that down too, but no, it's enough to be dangerous, Kirk. It always is, even in our own language. We all pretend we can communicate, but he that has ears, let him hear. He that has eyes, let him see. And in Spanish, the challenge being 36 is when you can speak at about the age of a 13 or 14-year-old, you don't get the benefit of the doubt when you accidentally use an innuendo. And so you can very quickly be labeled a very racist or very, very difficult, very rude person. And so I will never do business in Spanish without a translator. And yeah, I learned some hard truths before that second divorce. So
And you're in New Braunfels, right?
I am. Where are you based out of?
Northwest Florida, Destin area.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So
Awesome.
you should know some German then.
9.
There you go.
That's my German word. There you go. Or Russian, German. I don't know.
My wife is from San Antonio. I'm from Fort Worth originally.
Really? What part of San
Yeah.
Antonio?
Chavano Park.
I was born and raised in Oak Meadow.
Is that right?
You
Where'd
know
you
where
go to
that
high
is, right?
school? I do. Where'd you go to high school?
Well, born and raised. So we moved. My sisters all went to Lee High School.
Hmm.
And then we moved to Eden neighborhood. I don't know if you know where that's at now. It's over off
I'll ask
Thousand
my
Oaks
wife.
and Jones Maltsburg area, a
Uh-huh.
little bit east of there. And then I moved again. No, we moved to Northern Hills, and then we moved to Eden. So I ended up transferring from the Lee High School to the Madison district, then to MacArthur, and they changed Chavano and Oak Meadow. They moved all the Oak Meadow kids from Lee High School to Churchill, and Chavano's mostly Clark. But
Yeah, that's where my wife went to Marshall, and then Clark was built for her siblings.
okay, yeah,
Yeah,
small world.
yeah, and two of her siblings live in Bernie now.
Oh man, good city.
Mary's Tacos.
Yeah, I haven't been to Mary's Tacos. I need to go now. If you're calling
Yeah,
it out, I know you're calling out for a reason. I'm gonna write it down.
there you go.
Who's do you know the people who own it or just a favorite
It's
place?
it's Mary's. It's you take a right after you pass the main downtown area.
Mary's Tacos now has quite a few locations, it looks like.
They do.
That's good news. Let's see here. Where's the one closest? They got is the one in Austin owned by them as well?
I don't know. I know the one in Kerrville is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna save this. Well, thanks for Carmen San Diegoing with me. That was fun.
Well, there you go. We lived in Kerrville for 12 years.
Kerrville. Um, got a couple friends from there. But one company I worked with an LED lighting company out there. Good people. Trying to remember his name. Thompson. The name was let me think. It was TU Services. Um,
Mm.
but I didn't get out there too much. You guys had the best Starbucks though. It's right on the river.
It was 25 years ago when we left.
Okay. And
So
Destin, I
a
don't
lot
have
has
any
changed.
connections to. Destin, I
Yeah.
don't. Orlando, I was in place to be the publisher of the newspapers out there when I was 22 years old. And the week before I went out there, I got offered a position as a founder of a different company. So I, uh, I decided not to. The publisher of the paper wanted me to come in as ad director, and I was excited to mentor under him. And they so I was getting ready to do that, and then he got offered a job being the publisher of the Daytona paper. So Ron Wallace is his name. He headed out to Daytona, and they wanted me to be the publisher. And we had a software. I was one of the reps for it, but I didn't even know what a publisher was. And so I'm thinking, I don't know if I should do this. And I had this other opportunity, and I went out to meet with the investors, and it was a great. I mean, it would have been 150,000 a year plus up to 250 in bonuses, and I would have never found anything like that. But I asked the investors, I asked him what the 5-year plan was, and he said we don't have one. And I said, well, I was looking at his board, and he's got hundreds of companies that he owns, and on this map, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, I just got offered to be a co-founder of another company, and I don't want to go to newspaper. That's not my first option, the co-founding position is, but I would work with you here at this investment firm. That I am interested in talking to you about. And he cussed me out. Man, he cussed me out, and he leaves. And I'm sitting there like, what do? I was in his office. He just leaves. He comes back 5 minutes later, and he said, I'm really sorry I lost my cool. I shouldn't have done that. He said, if I were in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. He said, and I don't have a position for you though. Have a good trip home. So we shook hands. I went home, became the junior co-founder of Restaurant Connect. The rest was history. But I was this close. I was literally a week away from becoming the publisher of the Leesburg Daily Commercial and the two sister papers. I can't remember what they're called, but I loved Mount Dora, Eustis, Orlando, Leesburg, the whole like Kissimmee. Like that was. Oh, I was really close. I almost got my sand stuck in the shoes, as they say.
You and Johnny Cash.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, well, Kirk, thanks again for just catching up. Harry said great things about you, and
Good.
I'm looking for great people. Always, it's like bring great people together, do awesome things. That's kind of the go-to. What are you hoping to get out of today? Where do you want to take this call?
I want to have an understanding of what all this is. I've had a couple of calls with Harry, and it started off as a podcast through podmatch.com is how I originally connected. And we kind of drifted in a different direction where it became business enhancement. And to be quite honest, that's where I got a little bit lost. He left me with a question at our meeting last week of how much do you want to invest? And be thinking of a number for when you meet with Jackson. And it's like, oh, this is different from how we started, and I'm not quite sure how we got here. So I
Hmm.
want clarification. Number one. Second, to connect with you, to meet you, to get to know you. And we'll go from there. So those are my two objectives.
Appreciate it. I have objectives on my end as well. If it's okay, I'd like to start with what you said. I'm a big fan of feedback, huge fan. I used to love to give it. Now I'm pretty traumatized by trying to give it. I love to receive it though. You said you got lost, and if that's okay if that's what happened. But my question for you is this, and please honestly, did you get lost by Harry, or did you get led by Harry?
I got lost and I got a little bit overwhelmed.
So help me see that,
because
because that's going to help Harry as well in this process. I don't want, he's amazing as a human being. He's got a lot to
Mhm.
learn in terms of how to guide people. You and I both know that because of where we're at. And if we pull punches, we won't help Harry. And we want to help Harry. He's an immigrant from India who's done amazing things with his life, has the ability to influence and bless a ton of people if he continues to learn. But if we don't help people progress, then we won't be able to do just that. So my selfish side says, let's help Harry. Right? My other side says, happy to give anything transparently to you so you know what we're doing, how we do things, where things go. But it's definitely not fun to be lost. So
Yeah, and but it's okay because I had a episode in my life 30 years ago, and I may have shared this with Harry, where I was lost and I was in the wilderness. I'm a person of faith.
I am
And
too.
so I was wrestling with God at that point in time. And a counselor came to me and he said, "Tell me about being in this wilderness." And I said, "I'm just lost. I don't know what direction I'm going in, but I'm really leaning on God a lot right now and saying, God, help me out." And his response to me was, "Well, then that's where you need to be." And I'd like to say that things changed for me immediately at that point in time. But over these 30 years, I've seen the wisdom in that statement. So being lost is not always bad. You
No.
discover new things. But you asked me about Harry. Harry has the knack for asking the deep, penetrating questions, and he did a good job of that. It was a little bit mechanical. I would loosen him up a little bit on that in terms of the interaction, and I think that's going to be a product of experience that he gets through that. So, but a nice guy, and I told him, I said, I'm better for having met you, and I truly believe that. Secondly, he talked to me meeting two about this investment and be ready for that. And it's like, oh, timeout. I didn't say that to him, but in my own mind. And the next thing that happened, a lot of information via email, and there's a workshop to go through, and there's some things to view. And quite honestly, I got started on that a little bit, and I'm like, eh, I've got some other things I need to go deal with right now. So that takes me to my meeting with you, and I thought about it today, and I'm like, I just want to have a conversation with this Jackson guy.
Love
Let's clean up that mess and we'll focus in on that. And I think I'll find some clarification.
I love that. Thank you very much. That's all incredibly helpful. I'm gonna switch gears. I've got what I need in order to make sure to be a good friend and help Harry on what's there. And as you mentioned, it's really not me, right? It's the experience. As he gains experience, I'll get better and better at helping people. I love that you articulate though the timeout and the uh-oh, because he's not going to be able to see that without going through a lot of people, and without the right. They say when somebody leaves a 1-star review on Yelp, for instance, the Harvard Business Review says that represents 26 people who didn't speak up but had the same experience. I believe after COVID, that's probably doubled, if not tripled. Now people really don't like to talk, and especially if it's negative. And it's not just COVID; it's all the things that happen in life that created division. So anytime we can learn about that, that helps. I want to focus a little bit more on the workshop experience, and I'll just share with you very bluntly where we're at and what we're trying to do, and I think you'll get the idea. My ultimate goal is to create the light bulb of entrepreneurship, the light switch. And I'm at about the Thomas Edison stage. It is a very piece of crap light bulb that has a long way to go and a lot of renditions. And there's going to be thousands of changes that take place. And hopefully, if we're in tune with being our best self, if I'm in tune with working with God on this, then maybe, just maybe within 5 to 10 years, 5 to 10 years, maybe I can pull that off. And that matters to me because we have a country with a 100-year track record of 96% of businesses failing within 10 years. That didn't used to hurt as bad as it hurts these days, but I've been consulting for a long time, Kirk. I've gotten to know a ton of the 4%ers, the 4% that actually are still alive. That's not how I used to see it. I used to see the 4% as the successfuls. They're the ones who made it. They're the ones who life is, everything is wonderful for them. But when you start to get to know the 4%ers and you start to understand what they're going through, you begin to realize 4% survived. Most of the 4% are also struggling worse than the 10% who gave up. I'm sorry, than the 96% who gave up. They've got bigger debts. They've got marriages that have ignored each other. They've got challenges with bankruptcies. And all is not lost and all is not dark. But what is frustrating to me as a provider is, how is it that we're so quick to complain about the school systems, right? And if I would complain too, if I had a school where even 5% of the kids were failing, I'd be in an uproar as a parent. What are we doing? Why are we not helping these kids out? If it was 96%, in Texas, man, we would be at school with guns. Like, that does not happen here. You do not mess up the children's education. Yet as entrepreneurs, we eat that all day long. Nobody talks about it. Nobody's doing anything big about it. Everybody wants to pretend everybody's doing great. And it's disgusting to me that we put up a ForbesInc.com. You go to those places. 7 easy habits to make your business successful. Written by somebody who's got a product to sell, or written by somebody who's getting paid $15 an hour to write articles and doesn't know a dang thing about business. That is a huge, huge problem on one side. And I try to remember, you know what? God's in control. He gets it. But it's my call, to be a wise steward. It's my call to give this gift to others, to help people realize that there are easier ways to do this, and to look at people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos. And I'm only naming people that we both mutually know, because we both mutually know them, not because they're gods of anything, just because they have all beat the system and understanding how to create these companies over and over and over and over. And they're creating new companies all the time and winning because they have frameworks and systems that the rest of the world's not paying attention to. And if I go get a business loan at the bank, they're going to require me to turn in a business executive summary. They're going to require me to turn in where I'm at with my assets. They're going to require me to turn in a business plan. They're going to give me a whole ton of money. I'm going to go home, and where's that business plan going to go, Kirk?
File 13.
Yeah, very good. Exactly. I'm glad you chose that number too. And does the bank care? No, they don't care at all. They're not going to ask you if you followed your business plan. They're not going to hold you accountable for doing so. Why?
They've got their money.
They've got their money. They're already taken care of. And that's not because the banks are evil, in my opinion. It's not. It's not because the venture capitalists, are out to get everybody. Maybe some are. I'm not here for the theories beyond that. But there's literally no incentive for them to change. So if there's no incentive for them to change, then we have to create our own change. We have to be willing to go after it ourselves. So you came into the middle of an extremely messy startup in first class business. Welcome to my home. Welcome to what we're up to. I've got 5 new co-hosts for our show in the last 2.5 months. They all came in the same week. I am telling you, Kirk, alignment from God. I have tried to recruit great executives for many years. I have tried to create so many wonderful things with this, and we've made lots and lots and lots of progress, but every time we almost escaped whatever wilderness we're in for however many years we've been in it, it has been a process of, honestly, just, Heavenly Father, what else can I do? What else do I need to do? And every door that I've tried to escape and said, I'm just going to pull a Jonah and run from this, he found me. I was like, nope, you got this thing you're called to. And so that process, like I said, here comes Harry, Brian, Barbara Ann, they all at the same time ended up coming in. And now I've got to go back to my restaurant software days of reservations management and saying, okay, now we got to make sure everybody's lined up. We got to make sure everybody's taken care of, make sure all these people are trained on how they help people. And some leaders have really gotten it and been like, man, this is amazing. Some leaders have been really appreciative of people, of Harry through the process. And some of the leaders who come through probably find out more than they wanted to how prejudiced or racist they are, as they react and have these negative interactions where they're condescending, at a guy who's doing his best. And what all that process does is it helps us do what we're really trying to do, which is find the 2% of businesses, not the 4%, the 2% of businesses, according to tribal leadership, that have moved from I am great and you are not, and have moved from we are great and they are not, to the life is great category. We're looking for leaders who have an abundant mindset, for who build teams that recognize and appreciate that we don't have to stomp on anybody else. We don't have to be better than anybody. We're with, whether they get that we're with God or not, maybe that comes later. But we want to be a light on the hill for everybody. And we want to help build systems with people who understand the value of working with excellent teams. And the whole Vision Pros process is one where we want to, I used to control people's visions, Kirk. That was me. I was a controller. I didn't know it was bad. I thought I was doing the right thing by, I could catch a vision for you and help you run with it, but I would tell you what you should do. And I would tell you how you had to do it. This is how we did it. This is how you've got to do it. And I didn't realize that that language was controlling in nature. I didn't see that I was taking people's visions from them and making them subordinate to how I wanted things to be done. I had to lose my marriage. I had to lose other relationships too that were very important to me before I started to really open my eyes and see that I don't control the world. It's not my job. That's not my call. It's not a power that should be utilized. That does not come from God. And so I looked at people like Grant Cardone and I said goodbye. And I said, I love him as a human being and I absolutely hate the way he leads. And I don't want that. So when we launched Vision Pros, it was kind of my Paul Road to Damascus moment of, I want to create a stage where everybody can share their visions and they can truly be a visionary. And as long as they're honest and ethical and they're good to my people, then we want to share their vision. And the ones who come in that aren't, and I shouldn't say they're not bad people, they're just learning how to share their stuff. But if you come on my stage and you talk about a book that came out 2 years ago and you've got 3,000 clients and it's about how to build the best business ever and you've only got 2 reviews in the book, there's something wrong. How do you end up with 2 reviews when you have 3,000 clients who are supposedly happy? That doesn't make sense. There's a lot of little mechanisms we look at and we say, are these people truly ready to help the people that they say they're trying to help? And if they're not, then we try not to dishonor them. But if we try to help them just go on their way and hopefully be inspired by some of what we do. And if they are really aligned and they're really excited and they see, hey, I want to get to know you guys, I want to see how this works, and I might want to work with you, then we would want to move those relationships. Of course, we're going to honor that and say, yeah, we love to build visions as much as we love to hear about them. But I'm very grateful when somebody like you comes through and helps me see the reality of kind of how it didn't quite come to fruition, so I can make sure my team understands the whole goal, Kirk. And I tell they'll get it with time and experience, but we want to have a JW Marriott-like experience. And it doesn't matter to me if you're there as the person in the presidential suite, or if you're a friend of somebody just visiting, or even if you're the college kids who snuck into the pool and you're not staying there at all. We want to make sure that everybody wants to come back and wants to be there. If they want to be here and they enjoy the experience, fantastic, let's find a way. If not, it's okay. We're happy to have met you and we can move on from there. So that's what we strive to do. if you have any feedback for me anymore, I'd eat it up. But if there's also something I can do to help you in your mission and what you're doing with the seedsowercoach.com or your vision beyond it, then I'm happy to be a pair of ears too.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You talked about success. What is success for you?
Love. It's easy. That's it.
Tell me more.
Okay.
Just one second. Come here. Hey, I don't want to play with you right now. Go to your bed. Don't bark at me. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. It's a
Yeah,
loving thing to do. Um,
yeah. She's a great dog, by the way, but not right this moment. Go have a seat. Go have a seat. There you go. Anyway, love.
yeah. First commandment, love God. Second commandment, love thy neighbor as thou lovest thyself. Right? That's it. Like if we would do that without fail, everything else would be taken care of. So it's just a constant dedication towards how do we do that? Whether it's love is patient, love is kind, love is, the whole 9 yards. The forgiving of wrongdoings, etc. It was amazing to me when I finally realized the staircase that scripture is. And as I began I got this poster of it, of all those little breakdowns of the Corinthian scripture. And as I was going through my first divorce, I would pray, and I would do a little inventory with God on how am I doing on patience, which obviously wasn't going too well. How am I doing on kindness? How am I doing on trust? All the way down to trust, perseverance, etc. And I realized, like, wow, these elements. It's like you can't get to the next level without avoiding or without doing the first levels of it. They all stack. I would not share most of what we've talked about today with most people, Kirk. I saw your website. I see your demeanor and your cadence. But it really is that simple. It is this whole thing, this whole journey, this whole process of being is about love. And that's why I do what I do. That's success.
How,
That's it.
how do you sense, Jackson, God directing this vision, this idea that you are launching?
From what cadence do you ask your question?
I take, I guess, a viewpoint as you were speaking. I was assessing my own enterprise and projects that I have going on right now. Currently, I'm writing a book. As a matter of fact, the finished inset just came to me prior to our call. And
Wow.
so you're talking about 4 out of 100 success, and 81 want to write a book, 1% actually do it, or maybe less than 1%. So as you were speaking, I was thinking of success, testimonials, reviews that go with it, but it kind of turned it back to, okay, ultimately, God, this is your book. What do you want me to do with it? And so I take that to your vision, your business right now. How do you feel led in that regard towards success, not so much from a worldly standpoint, but maybe beyond that?
I sense the sincerity of your question. So I'll give you an ultra sincere answer. I was in Uruguay and I'd been there for a year and a half and I loved my mission. My first area when I couldn't speak the language, and I was stuck when I went to this mission training center and I was put in advanced Spanish and I was crying and I was telling them I can't do this. I don't know Spanish. And they wanted me to stay in because they felt I was a leader for the group. And Kirk, everything about me and the group said I was not a leader. These kids, they were smart. They were good. They did not need me, so to speak. But I'm sure there's some hidden wisdom there on that. And it probably had a lot to do with just my overall tenacity and diligence to keep up, even though I was not in the right room. I decided if there's one thing I needed to learn about, what would it be? Love. Right. I decided that love was going to be my answer. So I go to my first area and I speak in super broken Spanish. But by the end of my 6 weeks, 12 weeks there, they called me Elder Amor, which is Elder Love, because that's all I ever talked about. So here I was, dedicating my heart and soul to this, loved the people, never wanted, I had two homes I grew up in, my mom's, which was the perfect family home type Christian scriptures and prayers every day. My dad's was the exact opposite of that. I served that mission knowing my step siblings were stuck in that 24/7. And I knew that it would haunt me for the rest of my life if I didn't help the families out there who are stuck like that with what I was given. So again, I gave everything to this. And here I am in this little remote town, and I start teaching this family, and the oldest kid looks exactly like my nephew. And that was a weird feeling. So here I am in this little bitty hut, smaller than my room that I'm in, and there's a little divider wall. 6 kids under the age of 9. He's 9 years old. And dirt floor, leaky tin roof. Mom's 300 pounds. Dad's in and out of the picture. They've got one tiny twin foam pad, not a mattress, foam pad. And you can see the dirt coming through it because how worn down it is. So, I'm thinking lots of weird things. And I was a 20-year-old, just, where does my nephew sleep at night? Does he sleep on that? Because it looks like she does. If he doesn't sleep there, where does he sleep? I'm seeing this dad come home every once in a while and he'd be smoking cigarettes. I know his kids don't have food. I want to just crush this guy. How do you do? But I'm getting this wisdom of weird wisdom, like maybe he's the best she can get. She's 300 pounds. Maybe she doesn't have any other options. And maybe he does provide some things that I don't understand. Last thing I want to do is scare him off and be responsible for that. And maybe he has multiple families throughout the region like this. It was a really tough, and again, my nephew is at the core of this. And so one night I'm walking down the road and it's pitch black, cloud cover, and we start to see a silhouette coming towards us. There's 3 of us, and it's my nephew. And he says, "Can I have some bread?" Kirk, we didn't see starving a lot. It's very rare. We saw hungry, but we didn't see people who were literally starving in Uruguay. And here's my nephew starving. I've got nothing to give him. I can't take this kid 2 miles into town. It's already 9:30, 9:45 at night too, but I can't do that. I have to send him home. And I say, I've got nothing. I'm sorry. And my nephew lowers his head, walks around me, goes home starving. And I'm walking, and I'm starting to just cry. I'm just starting to bawl silently. The 2 people who are walking with me, they're still talking. But this happened to us every day. We had somebody walking up to us asking us for something, but not in that. It was too much for me. It's like I said, I'm bawling, and I start, feeling real dirty, and I'm looking down. I'm like, I got a nice shirt and tie on. I got a suit on. I got a backpack that's nice. I got shoes that are nice. I felt filthy. And I'm like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to go to the rice fields. I'm going to earn some money. I'm going to save the money up. I'm going to open a little computer store because people here open their computers. Keep in mind, I had a 0.33 GPA in college. I'm not the most studious person in the world when it comes to university stuff. So, but here I am thinking, like, I'm going to open this little thing and this little computer store. I'm going to teach these people how to change their life and save them financially. And whack! My face goes to the side and I hear a voice that says, "Jackson, why don't you go home Take advantage of your education for once. Learn about business and help as many towns as you possibly can. I thought, well, that's a better idea. And my next thought was, and I literally asked it very vocally in my head, but isn't that selfish? And I never got an answer. And it wasn't until years of trying to build this process out, trying to build this, trying to learn what I needed to learn, becoming my best self, really dedicating myself to doing things the right way, trying to do things God's way rather than my own, where I finally started to realize, no, I was called to this. I was very much meant to fulfill that literally. And it was a long, rocky path of trying to figure out how that works. But I have had so many opportunities along the way and have finally had all these assets come together in a way where Vision Pros has been a small portion of the process. And Oportunidades de Trabajo para Latinos started as a podcast episode. I just threw it on YouTube. And I taught my Latino friends in Uruguay and in Mexico and in Peru about LinkedIn and Fiverr and Canva and asked them if they'd ever heard of any of those things, and none of them had. And I was like, I wonder why that is. And then we grew it up to about 600 members and struggled with it. I turned it on and off, and my wife started to help me on it, my ex-wife, until she called me racist. And I realized that, this is going to be complicated. I don't quite have everything and all the support that I needed to. And now my Latino team has their own podcast, and they just interviewed Kike Inglés and La Teacher Alma. Kike Inglés has 900,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, and he loved the experience. And who interviewed him? Luisa. Who's Luisa? She's worked with us for 2.5 months. She had been with us for 6 weeks, had never had an online job before, had never worked with computers and data, was borrowing a computer so she could get started and learn. She's got a salary now. And her very first podcast interview is with an expert with 900,000 subscribers. I've never had anything close to that as a lead. It's so fun. And now Jovanka, who has influence in other parts of the world. She lives in San Antonio, though. But yesterday she met the founder of Jackson Hewitt. And she is like, what in the world? This is crazy. And, and it's one of her first podcast interviews. And then there's Ange, my assistant in the Philippines, who has launched her version of Opportunities for Filipinos and has hired a couple people and is fully endorsed by us. And we helped build her infrastructure for her podcast. And now she's interviewing other podcasters to help them with their launches and stuff and talk through the realities of that and get introduced to her VA program. And there's Harry, who was a solar sales rep that made me take a lot more time with him because I've been the president of a solar company and I know how solar works, and it's not my favorite industry. But I got to know him through church a little bit too, and he was launching this digital marketing thing, and turns out, well, he just saw a new opportunity, and decided to kind of jump onto the shiny ball syndrome of chasing that. But as I got to know him and listen to his story, I came to ask him questions about, hey, do you realize the power that you have as a leader? And I found out he wanted to do some stage stuff and be an influencer. And I said, Harry, let me draw a perspective for you that I see, and please forgive me if I'm out of place for doing this, but how many people live in it? It's 1 billion, right? He's like, it's 2 billion now. I was like, 2 billion. Okay. You're from India. You converted to Christianity in India without your parents converting. You immigrated to the United States with your sister, got your education, your university. You've done the American dream. You learned English. Do you realize how huge of a vessel you are? How massive your influence? I will never have that level of influence with the people of India. You are a light on a hilltop that is meant to shine further than you can possibly imagine right now. He gets it now. I think he got it then. I think he was just having a hard time realizing the power of his circumstances. So where does it come from? I mean, that's a big part of the depth that this whole thing comes from. I know what I've been called to do with this. And my life has been realigned more times than I want in ways that I never wanted. That's my story.
You've got this written down somewhere.
I have a lot of recordings of this, and I do have a lot of ideas, and we do have some books coming out. But Kirk, when it comes to the book launch, I paused my book launches knowing that it was very important for where I'm headed to make sure that I have both the budget and the strategy in place to not jeopardize missing the New York Times. I will not fail my book launch. My book launches require that. There are other books that do not require that. There are other stories that don't. But the parenting book, that's much larger than the story I just told you, that has the potential to compete from a scaling standpoint, not from a need standpoint, from a scaling standpoint with Chicken Soup for the Soul, and absolutely change paradigms that must change because we cannot wait for the data on it. That book is going to be phenomenal. And and then my children's books, my children, my 12, 10, and 8-year-old, year and a half ago, they all three wrote a book, got their manuscripts done. They met with one of my publishers, went through the whole 9 yards, one of my podcasts. This is the second or third episode if you want to see it. And I'm learning how to do it. It's really worth just kind of skimming or looking at maybe. But they didn't get the support from their mom that I was hoping that they would get. We got the opposite. Well, Dad's just doing this because. All right, well, guys, I have to be careful with how I help them move that forward at this point. I can't pull all the stops out. I'm not going to finish the process for them either. It's got to be theirs if they're going to do it. But all of that will come together in due time, in its own way. Or if God calls me home tomorrow, I'll be a very happy man because I know where I'm headed. Like that is going to be a wonderful thing. But if He's got more days for me to continue this mission, then I'm going to lay it all on the line. I'm going to make it happen. So that's that.
Couple of thoughts have come to mind as you shared that, and thank you, Jackson.
Yeah,
One is for the 12, 10, and 8-year-old, it may not be the time now.
that's
It
right.
could be the time at some other time. And maybe more importantly than that, I want to commend you, my man, for learning how to put on your oxygen mask first.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because unless you're healthy, you can't let anybody else be healthy that's around you that comes into your intersections.
It has been a wonderful 2 years. It's been a wonderful life. But the 2 years of finally aligning with people who are striving at the same level I am for healthy boundaries, and our principles, I'll show that real quick. The secret for me, what has been most helpful, has been making sure that we create relationships based on these 5 principles. And that is love, patience, persistence, consistency, and reliability. And love's the unfair one because it encompasses all virtues. So, somebody says, well, what about integrity? Like, well, it's part of love. But when it comes to business and life, I have found that if I have people who are surrounded by me who do everything because of love, or if they don't, they realize they get back to it quickly, right? We get hangry. But if they're patient, they'll be forgiving, right? And they'll make space for people. If they're persistent, they won't give up on people. And most people who are patient struggle with persistence. Most people who are persistent struggle with patience. But there are people who understand and value the process of harmonizing in both. And if somebody shows up consistently, I can rely on them. I know that they're going to, somebody's going to clock in every day. I don't have to worry about where they're going to show up tomorrow, but reliability is more about the quality of the work. Can I rely on them to do the right thing at the right time? Not just be there at the right time. And as I've dedicated myself to learning these, and that started back, my first divorce, where I really hammered down on a new level of commitment on becoming my best self and letting go, allowing her to make the decisions she wanted to make, and saying, I'm going to dedicate myself to this marriage no matter what she chooses. That made it very hard for her to want to move forward with a divorce. And when she did, I already knew that I was driven partly by a selfish motive. I figured, if I don't give my all to this marriage, what faith or confidence can a future spouse have in me that I will give my all in that marriage when times get tough? And that motivated me enough to start to pay attention, to do things for the right reasons. And eventually I figured out I needed to learn to be my best self, not try to be better than others. Just be my best self, just be the best that I can. And that includes forgiveness. If I can be my best at forgiveness, when I mess up, don't wait till tomorrow and say, tomorrow will be, no, just right now. Why should I rob Christ of the atonement? Why should I take that from him and say I have to put some arbitrary timeline on this? No, I need to jump right back in. Or right now, I don't want to waste any time. Go right to, of course, towards restitution and all the things that should be done. But those dynamics, that's all we do in first class business, is just teach these principles. And we know a lot about the mechanical, the external. That's why Harry's learned so much about mechanical. He knows what the mechanics are, but we're constantly working on, look, how, like why that matters and when that matters. So it's been amazing. I think I've had a lot of people come in who reminded me of a younger version of myself that I couldn't help figure this path out all the way. They eventually wore out with me. They eventually got upset, just like I would have when I was younger. And Harry came in rough, very, very rough. And we had to have some pretty serious feedback sessions. And until 2, 3 in the morning after a game of volleyball, we're sitting there talking. And man, he's been a rocket ship towards becoming a great leader. And it's been he's taught me just as much as I've possibly taught him in the process. And again, I appreciate you making space for him and being willing to figure all this out. I mean, I do have a zillion questions for you about where you're going, what your plan is, what your hope is. But I felt like before I dove into what you're doing, because that's also, it just feels so salesy. People asking the questions about where you're at, where you're going. I mean, that's the whole process of modern sales, is trying to understand people. But with you being lost, I wanted you to know who you're lost with.
I'm always lost.
I mean,
It's it's like
well, we have him though.
yeah, it's like writing this book. Well, how's it going? I said, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm learning a lot about what I don't know that I'm doing as I go along this pathway.
Who are you learning from?
Um, I'm working with, it's a self-published, but there's a lady out of McKinney, Michelle Prince, who
Oh, I
has a
thought you were going to
company
say
called,
Rakesha Pittman, but okay.
yeah, she
Michelle
has a company
Prince.
called Performance Publishing. And we had a very serendipitous connection. Her and her husband both went to North Texas State, as did my wife and I. They met there. We met there. Uh, they were Greeks. We were Greeks. It just was a divine intervention. So this is who I need to get into cahoots with. And there you go. There's Michelle.
Very good. Keep going. I'm just adding. I'm a multitasker, but on point with I like the visual process.
Yeah, you and my wife would get along splendidly. She's very visual. She's a kitchen and bath designer, by the way, and award winning in that realm. I outkicked my coverage with her. I didn't deserve her, but she ended up with me, and for 44 years she's been putting up with it. But yeah, Michelle and her staff have been wonderful to work with, and that's been another sacred intersection for me.
Good. It's I'm an auditor as a leader. That's what I do, and it makes me very unpopular in the marketing world. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Curious if you know already. Why do marketing businesses and coaches not like auditors?
You're getting in our business.
I'm evaluating, and they don't necessarily like you to go beyond the 100 testimonials that say how nice the person is. It's easy to win in business. It's not easy to do it God's way. But there are two powers in life that can drive success, and we end up as human beings tapping into both. But I I like to look at the details because I like to well, I like to win. I like to make results happen. And it's so hard when you see people trying to drive certain results, and it's there's a scientific method and there's certain principles to follow. Like if we check our references, right? If we know how to read the case studies and look at, well, what are the results that actually happened, and we know how to explore the variables of, well, I get that she published Bill Gates' book, but do you really think you're gonna have the same results as Bill Gates? Bill Gates has billions of followers. So even if he loved her to death, it doesn't represent what I would get out of it. I'm just Jackson, right? And so knowing the depths of the references, she looks wonderful, by the way, from a person standpoint, and she's got a lot of clarity and nice branding. We've we're kind of at the end of our rope as far as time goes. I don't want to overdo this, and I don't want to dig in and evaluate what you haven't asked me to evaluate either.
Well, let me just ask you this, because the other thought that came to mind, I'm thinking of you and Harry, and I'm kind of like, I could be you guys' dads. But having said that, what can I do for you, Jackson?
You know, um, the I don't know. To be honest with you, Kirk, I think exploring the continued friendship, exploring the continued reality of it's not a, I already have everything I want. That's like that. I know that God's there to take care of that. My friends are there to help support. They're all bonuses. You're a bonus, and so I want to help the 8 billion. So there's a shovel next to me. Like, can you dig mountains with me? Like, can you help me move the mountains? Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what Harry's trying to non-mechanically exercise is, Kirk, if you're building something that we're trying to build as well, and you got strengths and opportunities that align with our strengths and opportunities, and your weaknesses and your threats are something that we can assist on and help on, and we've got weaknesses and threats that you can help and assist on, then why are we not exploring that? What holds us back from looking at those things? That's not something that I'm very good at coaching people through or talking about because of how many years I've been dedicated to venture capitalism and working with businesses and all that. You put me in a room with an executive leader, we're going to have a business deal done within 45 minutes. We're off to the races. It's not hard. I know what questions to ask. He knows what questions to ask. We know we're not going to hurt each other's feelings. We know that we're going to be able to do our reference checks and move things along. When somebody like Harry asks me, hey, how much do you want to invest in this, or how much you want to pay, I already know my numbers, and I know exactly where I'm going to go with who and where and how much, and I know what I'm going to grill them about to make sure it happens, and bam. But that took years of training through. So Barbara Ann, on the other hand, that's the yin to my yang. Barbara Ann came in at the same time as Harry. I've spent over 300 hours with her. She's gotten to know all the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of Jackson Callum, and how difficult I am with people who aren't ready to run at the pace that I tend to run at. But she's a phenomenal performance coach and executive. She's got her own show as well, that somebody can be on. She knows how to help people see what I'm capable of doing without offending them. I don't know how to do that in a lot of cases. Um, it's all limiting beliefs at the end of the day. But people don't like to have their limiting beliefs pointed out. Their mindsets, it's like it's hard for people. So what can you do, man? Keep serving people, stay close to us, love. If you see an opportunity for us to work together, then by all means, feel free to dive in. But please never let me control your vision. I'm not here to impress. I'm just trying to share who I am, where I'm at. I don't like the idea of impressing. I like the visual image of that means like you're literally like like changing the identity of something. I don't want to do that. But I saw enough about your vision to know that you're either a wolf or a sheep. And then I talked to you and I was like, well, it's very hard to be a wolf the way you showed up. But I saw this and I saw the name of your brand and I was like, oh, okay. And the rest of this stuff, this is all just mechanics. It's all, I went and looked at your LinkedIn, your Facebook, and saw that you had a Facebook page. That's my Facebook page. Anyway, I had yours open and saw that it's a business page. It's also kind of a personal thing. I have one of those too. That was a big waste of time. But it's nowadays because of where we're at, what we're launching, it'll finally come to fruition. But with my previous expectations, right? Back before I realized expectations are the root of all heartache, and expectations, the synonym of entitlement. We're not entitled to anything other than God's love. So I had some shifts, but it really, I just want, if you want to serve me and you want to be around, then we want you around. If you don't want to be around, then we don't want you to feel like you have to be around. That's it, man. It's really that simple.
I love that. My wife, she was reading this book. She said she gives me her throwaways. Here, you ought to read this, or you
Yeah.
might like this. So that's how I get my
Treasure.
literature for my travels with ESPN when I'm on a plane during the fall going to work a game. So she gave me this one and she goes, I didn't care for it a whole lot. You may like it. And I read it and she said, what'd you think? I said, that's a great book. And it's called The Noticer by Andy Andrews.
Okay.
And there's a homeless character that's in the book by the name of not Mr. Jones, but Jones. And there it is. And at the end, he doesn't come around anymore. He dies. And I won't tell you the rest of the book, but I want to be Jones, the kind of wayward wanderer who's a noticer, who picks up on things and he asks questions of wisdom and he shares tidbits of wisdom along the way. If I could do that in my remaining time here, I'd be even happier than I am now.
It's amazing. I'm always collecting those. Whether it's for me or the people that we serve, that's the biggest thing is it can't be Jackson class business. It can't be Jackson Pros Life. Right? It has to be larger. And my ego has to be out of the way of it. And that's not that part. I don't want to say it's not hard to not do, but it's, you can't create something that has the magnitude of the effect of a Google without a board, without a governing body of executives and some type of governance that makes sense. So I don't know how all that will play out. I do have Dr. Todd Snyder on my board and Dr. Lyle Jackson and some other individuals that contribute to the process of what we're up to, and of course the hosts and all my Latinos. They're part of the decision-making processes as well, both in first-class business and in Opening Eyes. But one of my clients was Dr. Eric Berg, and he had 106,000 subscribers on YouTube. And when he met me, I was at Video Power Marketing taking calls on behalf of Jake Larson, just Jackson, 26 years old. I was terrified of Dr. Berg, actually. And he came in, I said, "Hey, Dr. Berg, how are you?" He said, "Call me Eric." I said, "Okay, Dr. Eric Berg, how are you?" I was not about to cross any lines. And, just call me Eric Jackson. I was like, "Okay." And he was nice about it. And so I knew I was terrified because I had to tell Dr. Berg he had the worst website I've seen in a very, very long time. And I literally thought I was going to lose my job. Because I was a very direct person back then, extremely direct. And so I started soft, and I said, "Hey, your colors for your website are bright yellow and bright red. Those are think stop signs and yield signs. It scares people."
Fast food restaurants.
Fast food restaurants. See, that's what most people I consulted with would have said. "We're going for the fast food." Dr. Eric Berg took his pen out and said, "Okay, I can fix it." Okay. I said, "Number two, you're going to go out to a bunch of restaurants this year. And how many newsletters do you want from restaurants that you eat at?" I said, "None." "Nobody wants your newsletter, Dr. Berg." "Eric." "What do I do?" So, "Well, you got to come up with some type of irresistible offer that gets people to really want to opt in for that. But signing up for our newsletter, nobody cares." "Okay, I can do that. Let me work with my assistant and I'll come up with something." I said, "Can I just be blunt with you?" Because I had no patience. That was it. I was the extent of my patience back then. He said, "Yeah." I said, "Your website is so bad, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I would never send my friends or family to it. I would never buy anything from it. It looks like somebody stole your identity in a third world country. And if I put my information in here, they're going to come after mine next. It is awful. You've got to fix the whole thing." "Okay. Give me 3 days. 3 days, I'll have it done." This is back in like 2016. And I have no idea how much money he spent on that thing, but he changed it. In 3 days, he had a whole nice branding thing. And it's always fun to check where Dr. Eric Berg is at today. Because last year, before YouTube screened him and started to silence his methodologies on naturopath. Wait, why is this not? Where's my internet? Oh, I didn't hit enter. It's me. User error. Yeah, he's at 12 million subscribers on YouTube now, and he was growing at about 1 million per quarter. And now he did something really smart. I didn't tell him to do this. He's just a smart man. He decided to launch this. Subscribe to my newsletter for unfiltered health content. And I'm sure his subscription rate went through the roof when he did this. But yeah, he's got his resources and shop and everything built out now in a way that feels like a brand that you would find in Walmart or anywhere else. And no, I didn't do it. That was the only time I talked to him. I sent him an email like a year ago saying hi and saying, "Hey, congratulations on all the success." And he sent me a little thank you or a little, "Hey, it's great to hear from you" thing. But I share that story with you because I don't know what God will call you to, Kirk, but there's no external factor that should prevent you, with the depth of wisdom that you have, from being able to scale and put your light on a hilltop that's that large. Whether you feel called to do that or you feel called to serve your local neighborhood, it's not my domain. And you're not in my dominion. That's for you to know with God. And if you ever want to talk about that and talk about how you scale it, that's what I do. I help people scale by doing what I did with Dr. Berg from a digital standpoint. But I've come to a point of realization after talking to so many people who aren't hitting it right to help them realize they need infrastructure. You can't sustain scale without proper infrastructure. And that's what we do for people, as we build tremendous infrastructures with tremendous people by focusing on the vision, building amazing cultures that people want to belong to, which attracts phenomenal leaders to want to get involved. And if we do that, we have something we can market. Not products and services and books and CDs and memberships and blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares about all that stuff. Disney's next movie that comes out, nobody cares, not unless you're a Disney fan. Then you'll go. If we leverage the same principles for our little bitty things that we're up to, then the right people will come and we will be able to build. So I hope that does something for you, even if we don't talk again.
This has been a true calling for me today, and I appreciate our connection. I'd like to continue the conversation and see where things go.
That's perfect. Did Ange get us connected for this?
I think it was Harry,
Oh, was it
but
Harry? Okay, let me send
yeah,
an email. I'll send a recap email then. And then
okay.
from there you can let us know. I'll include Ange. I know I looked today, my schedule is booked to the 27th publicly, but I'd be happy to meet with you sooner than that. I think there's a lot of wisdom in doing so, so I'll let Ange know and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Jackson, great meeting you. And it's good to
Likewise.
connect with somebody for New Braunfels.
If you could do me a huge favor,
Yes,
when you give the Podmatch review, if you can give Harry a shining review, authentic, but just call him out on that too. That would be very helpful for us. We have, I know I'm eating into your time here, but one of the challenges that a lot of people had was just the uncertainty of who they were meeting. And so now we've made some adjustments so that when people go to the page, we finally got all the hosts on here now. And when people go to actually book their call, instead of seeing me and seeing the Jackson podcast, nope. Now Harry's incorporated and others are incorporated, and all that content that we sent, all that overwhelm, we did that in the early days because the show was brand new. There wasn't a lot of value to come on and talk to three people. So literally this weekend, me and Ange spent time. We took out the irresistible framework. We took out the power launch. We decided to focus all the communication on just the podcast experience itself. Been working with Harry and the other team members on not pushing the live stream experience, because that's really not the value. The value is the podcast sessions, getting the message out there clearly about what you're doing, how you're doing it, allowing us to distribute that. And then another little fun token, we just started programming our social media with I haven't told anybody about this, but Recur Post. In a matter of about 5 hours worth of work, we programmed 30,000 social media posts. And so now we have a content library of 15 posts that are going out per day, much like a media company, CNN, Fox News, etc. And in these posts, the team's starting to tag the individuals who are in that. Next will be to tag all the resources that we mention on our show, so that we're tagging Simon Sinek if he was mentioned, or Patrick Lencioni of 5 Dysfunctions of a Team if he was mentioned. And the hope in making those tags is some of those leaders will say, wow, they talked about me on that show. Then they can share that episode. And who knows what will happen if Simon Sinek decides to share an episode with his 100,000 people and it was you and I who mentioned him. Right? There's a reciprocal effect. There's a ripple effect of just spreading the good news. And that's not the good news, but I think what you share is pretty awesome. So we'll put it out there. So yeah, reviews for Harry. That would be fantastic.
on my to-do list.
Thank you, Kirk. Have a great day, man.
Thank you, Jackson. Great to connect. We'll talk to you again soon.
Likewise. Bye-bye.